A woman was preparing to enter a rehabilitation center to rebuild her life. But just a few hours before arriving there, that journey took a turn no one could have ever anticipated.
House bill 63 should be passed because it's destroyed my life, my family's life, the kids' life, everyone around us' life.
What truly happened on that day? Judy Malinowski was born on August 26, 1983, in the city of Franklin, Warren County, Ohio, United States. She was the only daughter of Bonnie Bowes and Thomas Hansen, after her parents' relationship ended in divorce. Bonnie began living with David Gorman, a man Judy viewed as a father figure for many years, and together with Bonnie had another daughter named Danielle, although that relationship also eventually came to an end. Sometime later, Bonnie married Dan Bowes, who formally adopted both Judy and Danielle as his stepdaughters, after which the two sisters grew up in a stable family environment in a suburban area of Ohio. During this period, Judy was often described by those around her as someone with a strong ability to create positive impressions, frequently making others feel respected and truly heard through the care and empathy reflected in the way she communicated. Continuing from her childhood years, Judy was described by her family and those around her as someone inclined to actively experience life and approach new situations with an open attitude, while also possessing flexible and humorous communication skills in everyday interactions. According to her mother, Bonnie Bowes, Judy was regarded as a strong student who was responsible and genuinely cared about others, a trait clearly reflected when, at the age of 15, she volunteered in the Alzheimer's patient care unit of a local nursing home. During her high school years, Judy was actively involved in her school's social and community activities and also stood out for her appearance, with a tall, slender build, blonde hair, and bright eyes. These qualities led to her being selected as Miss New Albany and later crowned homecoming queen at the high school she attended. After graduating from high school, Judy enrolled at the Ohio State University, where she met a man who later became her husband, although his identity was not widely disclosed. During this period, Judy started a family with the hope of building a stable life and soon gave birth to her first daughter, Kaylin. Around the same time, her mother, Bonnie Bowes, and her husband, Dan Bowes, welcomed a son named Patrick, who became Judy's younger brother. In the years that followed, the family continued to grow when Judy gave birth to her second daughter, Madison. However, at just 23 years old, Judy was diagnosed with ovarian cancer and was forced to enter a prolonged course of treatment, including surgery and ongoing medical interventions, during which time her two young children were primarily cared for by her maternal family. After completing the initial phase of treatment and experiencing a temporary remission, Judy returned to daily life and worked in the customer service field. In April 2006, doctors confirmed that the cancer had returned, requiring her to undergo a total hysterectomy. The post-operative recovery was long and marked by severe pain, leading Judy to rely on prescribed pain medications over an extended period, laying the groundwork for the health complications and complex life-altering events that would emerge in the chapters that followed. This surgery was highly invasive and was followed by a prolonged recovery marked by severe pain, requiring Judy to regularly use prescribed pain medications throughout her treatment. Over time, dependence on this class of medication became a secondary health issue, unfolding against the broader backdrop of a substance abuse crisis spreading across the United States. When insurance coverage no longer paid for the necessary prescriptions, Judy was unable to continue her previous course of treatment and gradually turned to non-official sources, eventually developing a dependence on illegal harmful substances. Alongside her worsening health challenges, her marriage to the father of her children came to an end, marking the beginning of a prolonged period of instability in her personal life. Faced with these circumstances, Judy decided to seek professional help and enrolled in treatment at a private rehabilitation facility, setting in motion her efforts to rebuild her life in the years that followed. During Judy's time in treatment at the rehabilitation facility, her children were cared for by Bonnie Bowes and Dan Bowes, ensuring stability in their daily lives and schooling. After completing the support program, Judy was confirmed to have moved beyond her dependence on harmful substances and gradually reintegrated into everyday life, while also maintaining regular contact with her mother through daily conversations. In May 2015, Judy met a man named Michael Slager, 41, through social media, who was living in the city of Gahanna in northeastern Franklin County, Ohio. Over the course of about a month of online communication, he did not disclose a troubled past involving multiple legal issues, including property-related offenses, harassment, and domestic violence. Trusting the image he presented, Judy agreed to meet him in person, and after a positive first meeting, their relationship developed rapidly. Judy shared information about this man and the significance of the new relationship with her mother, while Bonnie, although acknowledging the positive changes she saw in her daughter, remained cautious about the unusually fast pace at which the relationship was progressing. During the course of this relationship, Judy gradually relapsed into dependence on harmful substances, and although Michael did not use them himself, he actively supplied them to her, creating a dual dependency that was both physical and relational. Information later revealed showed that this behavior contributed to an increasingly severe pattern of control, as Michael progressively restricted Judy's social connections and monitored her personal life, including secretly placing a tracking device on her mobile phone to control her location and daily movements. In response to this situation, Judy informed her mother, Bonnie Bowes, who encouraged her to report the matter to law enforcement. However, the complaint did not result in concrete intervention due to a lack of direct evidence, and because the reported behaviors were not classified as serious criminal violations at that time. Alongside ongoing conflicts, frequent arguments made their living environment increasingly tense, and when Judy attempted to end the relationship, Michael refused to accept her decision. In one nighttime incident, when Michael would not leave Judy's residence, she was forced to call her mother for help, and Bonnie personally came to the scene to intervene in order to ensure her daughter's safety. When she arrived, Bonnie Bowes came face to face with Michael for the first time, a man she had previously known only through her daughter's accounts. During the exchange, Michael was uncooperative and refused to comply with requests to leave the residence, even after Bonnie warned that she would contact law enforcement, and he moved about the home as if he had authority over the space. Faced with this situation, Bonnie called 911, and responding officers later instructed Michael to leave the premises. After this incident, in a private conversation with her mother, Judy Malinowski admitted that Michael had been supplying her with pain medication and other harmful substances. Despite being fully aware of her prior history of substance dependence following medical treatment, that conversation led to the decision to completely end the relationship and seek medical support once again. And Judy also took the initiative to enroll in a rehabilitation program. In the days that followed, she ceased all contact with Michael and proceeded to complete the necessary arrangements for admission to the treatment facility according to the schedule that had already been set. Judy's admission to the rehabilitation facility was scheduled for Sunday, August 2015, however, by means that were never fully clarified. Michael became aware of this plan and decided to follow her on that day. That morning, he drove his truck along Judy's route and approached her when she stopped at a service station to refuel, where the two engaged in a direct confrontation, marking the most intense and volatile moment since Judy had attempted to end the relationship and prepared to enter treatment once again. At the service station, the exchange quickly escalated into a heated argument, and as the conflict intensified, Judy threw a cup of beverage toward Michael, after which he responded by physically assaulting her. The incident did not end there, as Michael moved to the back of his truck, retrieved containers holding a flammable substance that had been stored inside, returned to where Judy was standing, and poured the liquid over her before igniting a severe fire. Within moments, Judy was engulfed in flames and cried out for help, while Michael did not immediately take action to assist her. A witness at the scene promptly called 911 to report the incident, and only after realizing that others were watching did Michael use a fire extinguisher in an attempt to control the flames, bringing the initial phase of the incident at the service station that day to an end.
I need you to stop screaming because I can't understand what you're saying.
After the emergency call was received, medical responders quickly arrived at the scene. During this time, Michael attempted to portray the incident as an unintentional accident and appeared to be preparing to leave the area. But a member of the United States Marine Corps who happened to be nearby intervened and prevented him from leaving until authorities secured the situation. Meanwhile, Judy was rushed to the Ohio State University Hospital, where medical staff assessed her condition as extremely critical, with little to no chance of recovery. At home, Bonnie Bowes still believed her daughter had arrived at the rehabilitation facility as scheduled, until she received a call from the hospital informing her of a severe incident and explaining that Judy was being kept alive on life support equipment. Upon arriving at the hospital, Bonnie saw her daughter in a deep coma, suffering devastating injuries across most of her body, including hair loss, severe facial disfigurement, extensive damage to her fingers and eyesight, and critical burns covering more than 70% of her body. Doctors warned that her condition could lead to death within a very short period of time, bringing to a close a profoundly serious sequence of medical events following what had occurred at the service station. After the incident was confirmed, Michael gave a statement in an effort to minimize his responsibility, claiming that Judy had initiated the physical confrontation and that he merely reacted, asserting that the fire occurred unintentionally while he was using a personal ignition device. Investigators, however, quickly rejected this account, stating that the evidence collected at the scene did not align with Michael's version of events, and warning that they had a clear understanding of what had actually occurred. After receiving treatment for injuries related to the incident, Michael was taken into custody, and a judge of the Franklin County Court ordered that he be held on a bond set at $800,000. During this same period, Bonnie Bowes took on the responsibility of informing and caring for her two granddaughters, who were then 9 and 12 years old, while arranging for their upbringing and daily stability as the family confronted an extremely serious crisis. Approximately 7 months after the incident that caused devastating harm, an unexpected development occurred when Judy regained consciousness following a prolonged coma. At that time, she was unable to move independently and her ability to communicate was severely limited, reduced to producing only very faint sounds. Throughout the subsequent course of treatment, Judy underwent more than 60 medical interventions, including numerous skin graft procedures, aimed at sustaining her life and restoring basic functions. About 2 months after regaining consciousness and becoming able to comprehend her own condition, Judy expressed a desire to use her personal experience to support and raise awareness for women who were trapped in relationships marked by control and severe harm within the family setting.
I don't mean to break down, I'm sorry. I'm trying so hard to stay strong, but it's just so hard.
A notable issue emerged during this period involving state assistance policies, as because traces of a harmful substance were detected in Judy's system at the time of the incident. Ohio refused to cover most of her medical expenses, even though the injuries Judy Malinowski sustained were not determined to be directly connected to her prior substance dependence. As a result, the family was forced to confront medical costs totaling millions of dollars. About 1 year later, Michael Slager entered a no-contest plea to charges related to aggravated assault, causing a serious fire-related incident, and possession of instruments used to facilitate criminal conduct. During the court proceedings, he made no statement before the judge, and defense attorney Robert Craper declined to comment, citing the possibility that his client could face even more serious charges if the victim did not survive. Although the judge expressed a desire to impose a harsher sentence, Ohio's legal framework at that time allowed sentences arising from the same act to be merged, thereby limiting the extent to which penalties could be increased. In that way, she imposed the maximum sentence applicable to the most serious charge, aggravated arson. After being found guilty, Michael received the maximum sentence of 11 years and was incarcerated at the Toledo Correctional Institution. The sentence sparked disagreement and concern, sentiments shared by Jim Hughes, a Republican lawmaker from Upper Arlington. Inspired by Judy's story, Jim rejected the idea of standing by and instead committed himself to pushing for a change in the law. His goal was to allow judges to impose harsher sentences on defendants whose victims were left mutilated or disfigured. Bonnie joined the lawmaker in this effort. She knew that for Judy, it was already too late, but not too late for other fathers, mothers, or families who, because of this change, might be able to seek justice in the future. While preparing for the possibility of cross-examination by the defense, Judy Malinowski underwent multiple psychological evaluations to determine her competency to testify. After being deemed fit and with the assistance of a voice amplification device, she delivered a recorded statement directly from the hospital. Prior to giving her testimony, Judy was required to temporarily discontinue the use of pain medication to ensure complete mental clarity. In her statement, she asserted that what occurred was not an accident and described how Michael retrieved containers of a flammable substance from the back of his truck, moved around, and poured the liquid over her body from head to toe, causing an intense burning sensation. Judy stated that throughout the ordeal, she repeatedly begged for help and attempted to get away from the scene. But Michael did not respond, instead using a personal ignition device to start the fire and then stepping back without taking immediate action, despite her continued cries for assistance. In the next part of her statement, Judy said that throughout the moments when she pleaded for mercy, Michael remained cold and unresponsive, and she described the experience of her body being engulfed in flames as something beyond words, leaving her convinced that she was unlikely to survive. Judy testified that during that time, she focused on praying and thinking about protecting and caring for her daughters. Alongside the legal proceedings, Judy became involved in supporting legislative reform initiatives in Ohio aimed at strengthening protections for victims in relationships marked by control and severe harm, later known as Judy's Law. At the conclusion of the recorded testimony, Assistant Prosecutor Warren Edwards asked about the legal consequences if the victim were unable to survive the injuries, and Judy responded that in such a case, the defendant should face the most serious criminal charges and a lengthy prison sentence as prescribed by law in order to accurately reflect the severity of the conduct involved. Over more than 3 hours of questioning by both the prosecution and the defense, Judy was required to answer a series of questions about her personal past and factors that could influence how the case might be viewed by the public, with legal representatives focusing in particular on her history of dependence on harmful substances following medical treatment. In her testimony, Judy did not deny these struggles, but firmly stated that Michael had deliberately drawn her back into using harmful substances as a means of control. She also testified that prior to the incident, Michael had repeatedly made threats of serious harm, and that although she had sought help from law enforcement, she was informed that at the time, there was not a sufficiently strong legal basis for intervention. During the examination, Judy raised concerns about the limitations of existing protective systems and questioned whether there were more effective ways to prevent severe harm within family and domestic environments. At the time Judy gave her testimony, Bonnie Bowes had been informed by the medical team that her daughter's condition was deteriorating rapidly and that the likelihood of recovery was extremely limited. In those circumstances, from her hospital bed, Judy still delivered a public message directed at individuals trapped in relationships marked by control and severe harm, urging them to actively seek help and leave dangerous environments while they still could. After the testimony concluded, Prosecutor Warren Edwards argued that if the victim were unable to survive the injuries she had sustained, the prosecution would move to amend the charges against Michael Slager under a more serious criminal framework. During this same period, the Ohio Senate Judiciary Committee formally passed the bill commonly known as Judy's Law, completing the final legislative step before awaiting approval from Governor John Kasich. But on the very day the law was scheduled to be signed, June 27, 2017, Judy Malinowski was no longer able to sustain life at the hospital while still undergoing treatment. This moment coincided with the final stage of the legislative process, when the law bearing her name was awaiting only formal approval to take effect. Prior to that, Judy had endured a prolonged period of medical treatment while her body suffered catastrophic damage accompanied by multiple complex complications, including widespread infection and multi-organ failure, which physicians determined to be irreversible. After a comprehensive medical assessment concluded that further interventions would no longer provide therapeutic benefit, the family made the final medical decision to discontinue life-sustaining measures, bringing to an end nearly 2 years of Judy's struggle against the devastating consequences that stemmed from the earlier incident. After a 23-month period of medical treatment following the incident, prosecutors formally amended the charges against the individual responsible, based on the fact that Judy Malinowski was no longer able to sustain life. Nearly 1 year later, Judy's family hoped that the Columbus Area Court of Common Pleas would allow the previously recorded video testimony to be admitted as evidence, effectively permitting the victim to testify in her own criminal case posthumously, a circumstance that is extremely rare within the United States justice system, acting on her daughter's behalf. Bonnie Bowes continued to pursue the necessary legal proceedings, while the defense sought to block the use of the recording on procedural grounds. In April, Judge Michael Rising issued a ruling permitting the prosecution to present Judy's recorded testimony during trial, ensuring that the victim's account would be formally considered by the court.
I think it's the first step towards what her legacy should and will be.
In July 2018, just 48 hours before the new legal proceedings were set to formally begin, the defense and the prosecution reached a legal agreement under which Michael Slager agreed to accept criminal responsibility at the most serious level related to causing the loss of life, thereby bringing the lengthy pretrial phase to a close and moving the case directly into the sentencing stage in accordance with the terms agreed upon by both sides. During the sentencing proceedings, the courtroom was opened to the public, and the jury heard the entirety of Judy Malinowski's previously recorded testimony. While Michael Slager's defense focused its argument on the claim that the relationship between the two had been significantly influenced by Judy's prior dependence on pain medication following medical treatment. In his remarks prior to imposing sentence, the judge referenced the punishment recommendation Judy herself had expressed in her testimony, in which she suggested a life sentence rather than the maximum penalty, with the intention of giving the defendant time to reflect and potentially change his understanding. The court also revisited the extreme level of harm Judy endured throughout her medical treatment, including severe damage to most of her body, permanent physical loss, repeated life-threatening crises, and the necessity of undergoing dozens of complex medical procedures, all of which were considered as contextual factors when assessing the gravity of the case. Ultimately, in accordance with the agreement reached with the prosecution, Michael Slager was sentenced to life imprisonment without the possibility of parole, bringing the lengthy legal proceedings related to the case to a close.
Michael Slager will spend the rest of his life in prison. One day before his trial was set to begin, Slager agreed to plead guilty to the murder of Judy Malinowski.
This means the death penalty is off the table, but Slager will have no chance for parole. In today's court hearing, we learn new details about the crime and heard directly from the murder victim herself.
NBC4 reporter Ted Hart is live at the courthouse tonight. Ted?
Colleen, Judy Malinowski died as a direct result of the burns that she received in 2015 after she was doused with gasoline and set on fire. And on that day, we now know, Malinowski and Michael Slager had argued about Malinowski going into a drug rehab program for her addiction to heroin. Slager had driven Malinowski to the drug rehab center, but she walked away saying that she was not ready. In her video deposition taken shortly before she died, Judy Malinowski described how, during an argument that day, she threw a cup of pop on Michael Slager, sending Slager into a rage.
He ran around with me and started pouring gasoline, started at my head and worked his way down.
Malinowski described Slager as having an evil look as he then pulled out a lighter and set her on fire. She survived for nearly 2 years through close to 60 surgeries and extraordinary pain. Her video testimony, seen publicly for the first time today, included a question about punishment for her killer.
I want you to tell a future judge what you want to see happen to Mr. Slager.
I would like to see him charged with murder, and to a extent, I think that he deserves that.
With Slager's guilty plea, Malinowski gets her wish. Slager avoids the death penalty, but will go to prison for life and no chance for parole.
It was the right outcome because it was what Judy wanted.
Malinowski's mother, Bonnie Bowes, says Judy was adamant that Slager not get the death penalty, adding that her daughter expressed hope that Slager would be able to turn his life around in prison. Bowes said she did insist that Slager plead guilty, that he not be allowed to plead no contest. At sentencing, Michael Slager did briefly apologize to both his own and the victims' families.
It's commendable that he did turn and look at us and say he's sorry. Judy was such a kind-hearted, she would be, Mom, that's acceptable, that's what I wanted.
And Slager's attorneys did say that their client does feel remorse and regret. They said that he decided to plead guilty ultimately because he wanted to try to help the healing process for the Malinowski family and his own family. Local for you and live at the Franklin County Courthouse, Ted Hart, NBC4.
After the sentence was announced, Michael turned toward Bonnie Bowes and Kaylin to offer a formal apology. On behalf of the victim's family, Bonnie Bowes confirmed that she accepted the court's ruling and acknowledged the apology given in the courtroom, stating that the sentence accurately reflected the legal framework that had been agreed upon during the course of the proceedings.
It's commendable that he did turn and look at us and say he's sorry. Judy was such a kind-hearted, she would be, Mom, that's acceptable, that's what I wanted.
In September 2017, Ohio Governor John Kasich officially signed into law the legislation commonly known as Judy's Law, which added an enhanced penalty of up to 6 years in prison for acts causing severe harm involving the use of highly flammable accelerants, such as fuel. The signing ceremony was attended by Kaylin and Madison, Judy's 2 daughters, and during the event, Governor Kasich pledged to continue reviewing existing domestic violence statutes in order to strengthen protective mechanisms for victims in the future. The 2 girls were also invited to symbolically sign the document, marking the law's official enactment. Following this, Judy's family established a foundation aimed at raising public awareness about domestic violence and advocating for the expansion of this law's principles at the federal level.
Tonight at 5, an emotional ceremonial signing for Judy's Law, just weeks after Judy Malinowski died in the hospital. Judy's family was at today's ceremonial signing with Governor John Kasich. The Gahanna woman was hospitalized for nearly 2 years after she was doused with gasoline and then set on fire by her ex-boyfriend. Judy passed away died in June, nearly 700 days after it happened. Judy's Law extends the sentence by 6 years for cases where an accelerant like gasoline is used to intentionally disfigure someone.
After Judy Ann Malinowski was no longer able to sustain life, her 2 daughters, Kaylin and Madison, were taken in by their maternal family, who assumed legal guardianship and continued raising them in Ohio within a familiar family environment to ensure stability in their education and daily lives. During this period, the family focused on providing psychological and educational support to help the girls adapt to their new circumstances, while also limiting the public disclosure of their personal information. Kaylin and Madison's appearance at the signing of Judy's Law reflected the family's desire for them to understand that what their mother endured contributed to meaningful legal change, aimed at strengthening protections for other victims in similar situations. In reality, Judy Ann Malinowski was not remembered solely as a victim in the case, but was also recognized for her active role in cooperating with prosecutors and participating in efforts to drive legal change related to the protection of victims of domestic violence. Through her testimony, legal advocacy, and the broader social impact that followed, Judy's case became a concrete basis for adjustments to sentencing frameworks and protective policies in the state of Ohio. In the obituary published afterward, her family and loved ones described her as someone defined by perseverance throughout a prolonged course of medical treatment, as well as by the lasting imprint her case left on the legal system and the wider community. After Judy Ann Malinowski passed away, her family held a private funeral in accordance with the wishes of her loved ones, with attendance limited to close family members and friends. Details regarding the time and location were not publicly released in order to respect the privacy of her children and remaining relatives. The service was conducted in a solemn atmosphere, bringing to a close nearly 2 years of prolonged medical treatment and marking Judy's return to her final resting place, while efforts to honor her memory and acknowledge her role in driving legal change continued afterward through her family and affiliated organizations, bringing the entire sequence of events surrounding Judy Malinowski to a close. This case stands as a stark illustration of the devastating consequences of controlling relationships, as well as the gaps that can exist in victim protection when timely intervention is absent. From this story, the lesson that emerges is the critical importance of seeking help early, raising public awareness, and strengthening legal frameworks to prevent similar tragedies in the future. Thank you for taking the time to listen to today's true crime documentary. And if you have any thoughts or perspectives, please leave a comment to honor the victim and share the video to help spread this cautionary message. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit like to continue accompanying me in upcoming true crime documentary content. Goodbye, and I'll see you in the next video.